The Texas housing boom is over? Or is it just beginning a new chapter? From Dallas to Houston, unsold homes are piling up, prices are cooling, and experts are divided on whether this is a correction or the calm before another surge. Just a few years ago, the Texas housing market was a symbol of unstoppable growth. Cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston became magnets for remote workers, investors, and families chasing sunshine, space, and affordability. Homes vanished from listings in days. Prices soared to record highs. It felt like the Lone Star State could do no wrong. But in 2025, that story has taken a sharp turn. What was once a market defined by scarcity is now flooded with for sale signs. Inventory across Texas has surged dramatically, with active listings climbing over 29% year-over-year, marking one of the highest levels in more than a decade. The momentum that once pushed prices skyward is now losing steam, replaced by longer selling times, price reductions, and hesitant buyers. This turnaround didn't happen overnight. It's the result of multiple forces colliding, from an oversupply of new construction and fewer out-of-state movers, to mortgage rates stubbornly staying above 6.5%. The same boom that drove prices up has now set the stage for a cooling phase. Still, calling it a collapse would be premature. Experts describe the shift not as a crash, but as a market correction, a necessary adjustment after years of overheating. Texas is recalibrating, and while the frenzy has faded, a new kind of opportunity is quietly emerging for those who know where to look. Across Texas, a new reality has taken hold. There are simply more homes than buyers. The state that once couldn't build fast enough is now dealing with a pileup of unsold properties. In early 2025, the number of homes for sale jumped over 16% year-over-year, totaling more than 151,000 active listings, according to Redfin. Builders who spent years trying to meet runaway demand have now overshot the mark, releasing a wave of new homes into a cooling market. This supply surge is happening for several interconnected reasons. During the pandemic, Texas saw one of the biggest migration booms in the nation, drawing people from California, New York, and beyond. Developers raced to capitalize on that growth, filing record-breaking numbers of new housing permits, more than any other state in America. But as interest rates rose and affordability plummeted, the flood of new residents slowed dramatically, leaving those newly built homes sitting idle. Even more telling, the months of supply, a key indicator of balance, has climbed from 4.3 to 5.5 months, a level not seen since 2012. That shift officially pushes Texas closer to a buyer's market. The imbalance between supply and demand has created tension. Sellers cutting prices, buyers hesitating, and builders rethinking their next move. In short, Texas has entered a rare moment of oversupply in a state built on endless demand, a turning point that could redefine its housing story for years to come. Behind the headlines of Texas housing cooldown lies a clear story told through numbers, a story of slowing demand, swelling supply, and a market adjusting to new realities. According to the Texas Real Estate Research Center, home sales across the state barely moved in May 2025, rising just 0.1% year-over-year, effectively flat. Meanwhile, active inventory soared nearly 30%, a massive increase that underscores just how quickly the balance of power is tilting toward buyers. Median home prices, once climbing relentlessly, have now started to soften. The median sale price dipped from $345,000 to $340,000, a modest 1.4% decline, but one that marks a symbolic shift after years of growth. Homes are also staying on the market longer, 32 days on average, compared to just 26 last year, giving buyers more time to shop, negotiate, and push back on inflated listings. Price cuts are becoming the new normal. The median seller discount has grown to $11,500, up over 16% year-over-year, as sellers adjust expectations to meet the new market reality. Even builders are pulling back, with single-family construction permits dropping 8% as developers slow new projects to avoid adding to the glut. In essence, Texas' once lightning-fast market has downshifted into a period of stabilization. The numbers no longer tell a story of unstoppable growth, but of a housing giant catching its breath, recalibrating for whatever comes next. The question echoing through Texas real estate circles is simple. Why are so many homes sitting unsold? The answer lies in a mix of economic headwinds, market timing, and changing buyer psychology. According to Nick Jurley, CEO of Reventure app, the inventory pileup stems from three primary causes: slowing migration, high mortgage rates, and inflated home prices that have priced out many local Texans. First, the population boom that once fueled Texas housing frenzy has cooled. The wave of remote workers and out-of-state movers who once flooded into cities like Austin and Dallas has tapered off, reducing the constant demand that builders grew accustomed to. Second, the surge in new construction has delivered more homes than the market can absorb. Texas led the nation in building permits in 2024, accounting for 15% of all U.S. new housing, far beyond its 9% population share. And finally, affordability remains the market's Achilles heel. Mortgage rates still hover above 6.5%, and home prices, though softening, remain far higher than pre-pandemic levels. Many Texans simply can't afford to buy. This convergence of oversupply and constrained demand has created a logjam. Homes staying listed longer, prices inching down, and sellers realizing the market of 2021 is gone. It's not that buyers don't want homes, it's that the math no longer works. While Texas as a whole is undergoing a market shift, the story varies sharply across its major cities. Each metro area is experiencing its own version of the correction, some cooling faster than others, and a few showing surprising resilience. Austin, once the poster child of Texas real estate boom, is now feeling the steepest correction. Home prices there are down roughly 3% year-over-year, and nearly 17% below their 2022 peak. After years of runaway appreciation, the city's affordability crisis finally caught up, forcing prices to adjust. Builders who once couldn't keep up with demand are now facing sluggish sales and rising cancellations. Dallas-Fort Worth, meanwhile, is witnessing a surge in listings unlike anything seen in over a decade. Active listings have reached around 32,000, nearly 60% higher than the historical average. Prices have slipped about 4.6% year-over-year, with experts predicting an additional 7 to 8% decline in the coming months. Still, local agents describe it as a recalibration, not a collapse, a necessary cool-down after years of overinflated growth. Houston stands as the outlier. Despite higher inventory, it remains the strongest metro market, with home values still rising about 2% annually. Meanwhile, San Antonio sits somewhere in between. Modest declines in prices and strong buyer activity driven by affordability. Together, these cities reflect the broader truth. Texas isn't crashing, it's normalizing. The boom may be over, but stability could be its next chapter. For the first time in years, Texas homebuyers are finally calling the shots. The era of bidding wars waved. Inspections and frantic overbidding has faded into history. In its place stands a calmer, more balanced market, one where buyers hold the advantage. The sharp rise in inventory has given them what they've long been denied: choice and control. With listings up nearly 30% year-over-year and the average home spending 32 days on the market, buyers now have breathing room. They're no longer forced to settle for whatever's available or rush into overpriced deals. Instead, they can negotiate, and they are. Sellers, facing increased competition, are more willing to cut prices or offer perks like covering closing costs and including appliances. In May 2025, nearly two-thirds of all closed sales included price reductions of $5,000 or more, with the median discount reaching over $11,000. This newfound leverage doesn't mean buyers should act recklessly. Mortgage rates are still high, hovering above 6.5%, which means affordability remains tight. But for those who are financially ready, this shift represents opportunity, a rare window to buy on better terms before the next upswing. In short, the Texas housing game has flipped. After years of chasing listings and losing bidding wars, buyers are finally in the driver's seat, and this time they're steering with confidence. For Texas homeowners, the market has become a test of patience, adaptability, and realism. Gone are the days when a house could be listed on Friday and sold by Sunday, often above asking price. In 2025, sellers face an entirely different environment, one defined by longer listing times, sharper competition, and more selective buyers. The rise in inventory has shifted power away from sellers, forcing many to rethink their pricing and marketing strategies. Homes that might have sparked bidding wars 2 years ago are now sitting idle for weeks. According to recent reports, the median days on market has climbed to 32, while price cuts have become standard practice. The average seller reduction now hovers around $11,500, a 16% increase from last year, signaling a broader adjustment in expectations. To stand out, savvy sellers are offering incentives, covering closing costs, buying down interest rates, or including high-value appliances, anything to sweeten the deal. Presentation has also become crucial. Staged homes with professional photos and modern upgrades tend to attract more attention in a market crowded with options. But above all, success now depends on realism. Sellers can no longer rely on emotion or memories of the 2021 frenzy. The Texas market rewards those who price smart, stay flexible, and understand that this phase is transitional, not terminal. For those who adapt, there's still plenty of opportunity, just not at yesterday's prices. If there's one force holding the Texas housing market in a chokehold, it's interest rates. For years, record low rates fueled an unprecedented buying spree, allowing families to stretch budgets and investors to multiply offers. But now, with mortgage rates stubbornly hovering above 6.5%, that same force has become the biggest obstacle standing between buyers and homeownership. Every fraction of a percentage point matters. For many Texans, the difference between a 4% and a 6.5% mortgage means hundreds of extra dollars in monthly payments, enough to price them out entirely. Even as home prices have begun to soften, the savings from those declines are often erased by higher borrowing costs. It's a frustrating paradox. Homes are more available, yet less affordable. The ripple effect is visible across the state. Buyers are waiting on the sidelines, hoping for relief, while sellers struggle to attract offers from a shrinking pool of qualified prospects. Builders, too, are feeling the pressure, as financing new projects becomes riskier and more expensive. Experts say that until rates fall closer to 5% or below, the market will remain in this holding pattern. Not crashing but not booming either. The rate trap has effectively paused the Texas housing engine, locking many potential buyers in place and keeping would-be sellers from moving up. In this new reality, interest rates are the invisible hand guiding every decision. For real estate investors, Texas has long been a land of opportunity, a state where population growth, job expansion, and low taxes created a near-perfect storm for profit. But now that confidence is being tested. With home prices slipping, inventory surging, and sales stagnating, investors are asking a critical question. Is this just a correction, or the beginning of something worse? According to Nick Jurley of Reventure app, the Texas housing boom is officially over. He warns of a multi-year cooling period, predicting that prices could decline gradually before leveling off for several years. Austin, once the darling of investors, has already seen price drops of nearly 20% from the 2022 peak, while Dallas-Fort Worth may experience an additional 7 to 8% decline in the coming year. These figures have sparked anxiety among short-term investors who bought during the frenzy at inflated prices. Yet not everyone is sounding the alarm. Economists at Realtor.com argue that what Texas is experiencing is not collapse, but rebalancing, a necessary pause after years of unsustainable growth. They believe that when interest rates eventually fall, pent-up demand will reignite activity. For now, investors face a tough choice: hold properties and weather the correction, or cut losses before values dip further. The real challenge lies in timing, because in Texas real estate, the line between correction and collapse is thinner than ever. If one city captures the turbulence of Texas housing transformation, it's Dallas-Fort Worth. Once among the nation's hottest real estate zones, Dallas is now a symbol of how quickly momentum can flip. After years of runaway growth and bidding wars, the region has been hit by a surge in listings so large that experts are calling it through the roof. Active listings in the Dallas-Fort Worth area recently soared to nearly 32,000 homes, about 60% higher than the long-term July average. The result? The most inventory the metro has seen since the aftermath of the 2011 downturn. Prices have started to reflect that shift, with home values down 4.6% year-over-year, averaging around $315,000. Analysts from Reventure forecast an additional 7 to 8% price drop over the next 12 months, calling the market overvalued, by as much as 22%. Yet local agents insist this isn't a collapse, it's a recalibration. As Dallas-based realtor Harrison Polsky explains, the frenzy of pandemic-era migration, low interest rates, and investor-driven buying simply ran its course. Now the market is catching its breath. For buyers, Dallas represents opportunity. Homes are more negotiable, competition is thinner, and patience pays off. For sellers, it's a reality check. Pricing aggressively or ignoring market signals is a costly mistake. The Dallas story proves a vital truth about Texas real estate. Even the strongest markets must sometimes slow down to stay alive. Looking ahead, the Texas housing market stands at a crossroads, poised between a temporary slowdown and the seeds of future opportunity. Analysts widely agree that 2025 will continue to be a year of adjustment, marked by high inventory, modest price declines, and cautious optimism. But the question remains, will this holding pattern evolve into a rebound in 2026, or linger as a prolonged correction? Current projections suggest that inventory will stay elevated through the rest of 2025, keeping buyers in control. Builders have already begun to pull back, with single-family permits down 8% year-to-date, a sign that new supply will begin tapering off by mid-2026. Prices, meanwhile, are expected to soften another 2 to 4% in key metros like Dallas and Austin before finding stability. This moderation, combined with eventual easing of mortgage rates, could quietly set the stage for renewed demand. Experts say much depends on the Federal Reserve's next moves. Even a small drop in interest rates could reignite buyer confidence and unleash a wave of pent-up demand. If that happens, 2026 might not just be a recovery year, it could be the start of a more sustainable growth cycle. In essence, Texas isn't facing a housing crisis, it's in transition. For strategic buyers and patient investors, the coming year may reveal that today's slowdown is tomorrow's opportunity in disguise. As Texas stands on the edge of 2026, one thing is clear: the state's real estate story is far from over. What we're witnessing now isn't the end of the boom, but the maturing of a market that expanded too fast for too long. After years of explosive growth, Texas is pausing, recalibrating, and preparing for its next chapter. The short-term picture may look uncertain: unsold homes, longer listing times, cautious buyers, but beneath the surface, Texas still holds all the fundamentals that made it a real estate powerhouse. Strong job growth, population inflow, business-friendly policies, and vast land availability. These factors don't vanish in a market correction. They simply take a back seat while the market resets. Experts remain divided on timing, but aligned on trajectory. Whether it takes 1 year or 5, the state's affordability advantage and expanding economy will once again draw buyers, investors, and builders back in. As affordability slowly improves and rates ease, Texas could reemerge as one of the most balanced housing markets in the nation. In truth, this slowdown may be exactly what the Lone Star market needed. A moment to cool off, correct, and rebuild stability. Because if history has taught anything, it's that Texas never stays down for long. The state's housing story is cyclical, and this chapter, though slower, is laying the groundwork for the next great rise.